In this video, we are going to have a look at everything you need to pass Cambridge B2 First Speaking. You are going to find out what the different parts look like, the best strategies, as well as some practical examples. If you like the idea, let's jump right into it.
You don't, no, you really don't think he is. I knew it! Oh God, are you good?
Oh, poor thing. I'm sure after this video, you're not gonna bomb your exam like this poor guy. But yeah, without further ado, let's get started. Hi and welcome to Teacher Phil, where I help people like you pass their Cambridge exams. Speaking is only one of the 5 exam papers in Cambridge B2 First. The other ones being reading, use of English, writing and listening. The test usually takes around 14 minutes if you are in a pair with one other candidate, but it takes a little bit longer if you happen to be in a group of 3. During the test, you have to demonstrate that you can respond appropriately to a variety of rather simple and also more complex questions, and also that you can have a discussion and also negotiate with a partner towards an outcome. There are 4 different parts to the speaking paper in B2 First. A conversation between the interlocutor, who is one of the examiners, and each candidate. The interlocutor asks questions about the candidate's preferences, hobbies, likes, dislikes, and other personal topics. Part 2 is an individual long turn by each candidate. The examiner gives you 2 photographs and a question to answer. You also need to answer a question about the other candidate's photos. Part 3 is a discussion and decision-making task, in which the interlocutor gives you and your partner a scenario plus written prompts for you to talk about. In part 4, you are faced with another discussion of different questions with your partner based on the topic in part 3. During the test, there are always 2 examiners present in the room. The first one is called the interlocutor. That's the person who asks all the questions and is also responsible for the timing of the test. The other examiner is called the assessor, and that examiner does most of the marking, but doesn't ask you any questions. And last but not least, as the speaking test is one of 5 parts in the exam, it counts 20% towards your overall mark. Speaking of marks, in this test there are 5 different marking criteria the interlocutor and assessor use to assess your speaking. Grammar and vocabulary, as well as pronunciation, should be clear, and I don't think I will need to explain them that much. Discourse management, however, is a little bit more complex. Here the examiners assess if you can produce extended stretches of language. Also, you need to show that the things you say are relevant to the questions and that you can structure your answers in a logical way. Interactive communication looks at how you respond to the interlocutor as well as your partner or partners, and also how you maintain and manage the interaction with your partner. Last but not least, global achievement, as the name suggests, is a global mark, and it looks at how you handle the exam in general. That means how well you respond to different questions and how you structure your answers in general. The interlocutor gives you the global achievement mark, while the assessor marks all the other criteria. As these marking criteria are quite complex, it would take us too much time to talk about all the details. But I've left a link in the description box below where you can get a little bit more information if you are interested. We, however, are going to move on and look at the different parts of the speaking exam. So now we are going to see how the different parts work. You are going to learn what you need to be careful with, yeah, how you can do these different parts in the best possible way. And I will also show you some real life examples so you know exactly what to do. Part 1 of the speaking test can be considered a little warm-up for you and your partner. The interlocutor asks you different short questions about you and your life. The topics could include things like your friends and family, hobbies, likes and dislikes, past experiences, future plans, and things like that. This part takes only around 2 minutes, and you have to demonstrate your ability to use social as well as interactional English. To do well in this first part of the exam, there is a little rule that I always tell my students. It is not an official rule from Cambridge, but from my experience, it has helped many people do well from the beginning. I would always try to give answers that are around 20 to 25 seconds long. This way, you don't just answer the question and then stop, but you always answer the question and then give a little bit more information. Things like reasons, examples, or personal experience. This way, you can already make a really good impression from the beginning. Many candidates, especially the unprepared ones, go into the exam and they give very short responses. For example, the answer in this case is completely unsupported and therefore too short. Instead, the candidate could have given more information by detailing where she's from. This is a lot better. There are much more details, so the examiner is fully informed. Always remember, reasons, examples, personal anecdotes, and other details give you the extra information to make your answers just a little bit longer and to impress the interlocutor and assessor. Okay, so after all my explanations and these written examples, I'm sure you want to see the exam in action. So that's why we are going to have a look at an example. Let's move to my office and let's see what happens in a real exam. So here we are. Welcome to my office, and let's get started immediately with our speaking exam. The two candidates are called Florine and Maria, and let's get started with part 1 and how they do. I'm going to stop after each answer, give you my thoughts so you get a better idea of how to start a speaking exam successfully. So without further ado, let's jump right into it.
Good afternoon. My name is Jenny Cook, and this is my colleague Jenny Tennant. And your name, sir?
My name is Florine.
And my name is Maria.
Can I have your mark sheets, please?
Yes, of course.
Here you go.
Thank you.
Okay, I'll stop real quick at this point so you can see how the exam always starts. You can see both examiners here as well, the interlocutor who's going to ask all the questions and also, as you can see, keeps the time, and then the assessor in the background who does the majority of the marking. They collect the mark sheets for the assessor to fill out, and with that the exam really starts. So let's get going.
Where are you from, Florine?
I'm from Holland, from the Netherlands.
And you,
Me,
Maria?
I'm from Argentina.
Well, first we'd like to know something about you. Florine, tell us about a film you really like.
I really like the movie Titanic. I actually have seen it last night. And I like it because it's the story actually happened. And I like the love relationship between the two main characters.
Okay, so here I think Florine starts quite well. She names the film that she's watched and that she likes, and she also gives reasons why. Yeah, she likes the love relationship in the film. She says when she watched it. So I think that was a pretty good start. So let's watch Maria's first attempt here.
Maria, are you going to do anything special this weekend?
Yes, this weekend I'm going with my best friends to the cinema to see a comedy film.
Okay, so this is Maria's first answer, and I think you can see the difference immediately, that Florine gave a little bit more information, while Maria just answers the question, and that's pretty much it. Yeah, she just says, I'm gonna go to the cinema with friends to watch a comedy film. She could talk about the film, she could talk about her friends a little bit more, or possibly some other activities, so she could definitely give a little bit more information. But let's move on.
And Florine, how much television do you watch in a week?
Actually, quite a lot. My mom doesn't always really like it, but I watch kind of different things. I watch the regular news and also just like the lazy entertainment programs, and also I watch a lot of movies. So yeah, quite a lot actually.
Okay, and again, Florine tries to give examples. She talks about different kinds of programs she watches on TV. She also admits that she probably watches a little bit too much and that her mum is not that happy about it. So again, I think she does a good job here, giving an extended answer.
Maria, do you ever listen to the radio?
Not often, but some Sundays I switch on the radio to listen music.
Thank you.
Okay, and that is already the end of part 1. So again, Maria could, in my opinion, could give a little bit more information here. She just says sometimes on Sunday she listens to music. She could, for example, say what kind of music she enjoys listening to, or even if it's not true, she could possibly invent a little bit more information just to give her answer a little bit more length and a little bit more structure. So I think here in the first part, the contrast becomes quite obvious here, that you can give very good answers by just adding a little bit of extra information like reasons, examples, your opinion, which makes a good first impression on the examiners, and that's what we want. But it's only the beginning. We still have 3 more parts to go, and I will see you again very soon. In part 2, you need to speak about a pair of photographs on your own for about a minute. You need to compare the photos as well as answer a question about them. In addition, you also have to answer a short question about the other candidates' photographs. The total time for pairs is around 4 minutes, or if you are in a group of 3, the time goes to 6 minutes. You need to demonstrate that you can speak spontaneously for an extended period of time, with the focus on comparing as well as giving your opinion. The most important aspects of this task are, number 1, your time management, as well as your choice of language. As I said earlier, you need to compare the 2 photos and answer a question about them. Try to spend about equal time on either task, and try to use some good language to impress the examiner. Here's an example. This is probably worth 1 minute of speaking if you read it out at a natural speed. I've highlighted all the useful language for you, so you get a better idea of how to deal with speaking part 2. After looking at my written example, let's go back to Victoria and Edward, and let's see how they deal with part 2. So, welcome back. So here we are for the second part of the speaking exam with Florine and Maria. As we saw in the first part, there are some slight differences between the candidates, and let's see if those differences continue in the second part. And let's have a look at what the candidates do well and what they could improve on. So yeah, let's jump right into it. And again, I will stop after the first candidate and give my opinion, and then we'll move on to the second one.
In this part of the test, I'm going to give each of you 2 photographs. I'd like you to talk about your photographs on your own for about a minute, and also to answer a question about your partner's photographs. Florine, it's your turn first. Here are your photographs. They show people who are helping other people in different situations. I'd like you to compare the photographs and say how important it is to help people in these situations. All right?
Yeah. I think in the first picture it's someone helping a soccer player because he's obviously hurt. And in the second photo, the police officer is helping, I think it must be a tourist because there is a map in the photo. And I think it's really important to help people in those situations because they're both needed help, and in the first picture the person is probably in pain because mostly when you play a sport you can get injuries. And in the second photo I think it's also very important that the police officer is willing to help the tourist because it's just I think police officers are there because they have to serve the people.
Thank you.
Okay, so that, as you see, goes very quickly. It's just a minute that you have, but I think Florine has a very strong long turn here. She starts very well by comparing the photos. She speculates a lot. She gives reasons for her opinion, uses good language to do that. So if you watch it back, you can see that she does a very good job there. And really, that's what a teacher can hope for. Makes me very happy to see this. She also doesn't spend too much time on comparing the photos there. She moves to the question quite quickly. And she also uses some nice expressions there. There's good vocabulary. For example, when she talks about the police, she says they are there to serve people, which is a great expression there. And I think overall it's a very good turn. If I had to nitpick here and criticize something, I find that sometimes she hesitates a little bit to find the right words, even though I don't think that that's a language problem. She really just looks for ideas and what to say. So again, I think that's a very good 1 minute turn by Florine. And so let's see what Maria says about the question that the examiner asks about Florine's pictures.
Maria, do you find it easy to ask for help when you have a problem?
It depends what problem I have, because sometimes when you are in different places you are shy, so you don't ask to help.
Okay, so I think Maria does a good job here. The answer to the question is not too long. Yeah, it's almost like a question in part 1 or an answer in part 1. You answer the question. She gives a little bit of extra information. Yeah, she says it depends on the situation. And I think she does a good job here. And so, yeah, let's move on right to Maria's long turn.
Thank you. Can I have a booklet, please?
Yes, of course.
Now, Maria, here are your photographs. They show people spending time in different gardens. I'd like you to compare the photographs and say what you think the people are enjoying about spending time in these gardens.
Okay, I can see in the first picture a woman doing gardening maybe in his house, and the second one I can see in a beautiful park, maybe near London, and we are spending time with his family. And well, the first one, the girl is planting a nice plant, and I think both are enjoying a lot these hobbies.
Thank you.
Okay, and there we have Maria's turn. So I think what Maria does well at the beginning of her turn is that she uses some language to speculate about the pictures. She says that it's maybe her house, or that the people are maybe near London, the ones that are in a garden. But she doesn't really compare the photos. Instead, she speculates about each picture individually and kind of describes them more. So make sure that you compare the photos and that you use language that shows that, like comparative structures or similar language. I think another problem in this turn is that she doesn't really answer the question that the examiner asks. She doesn't say why the people might be enjoying these activities. She only says that she thinks that they are enjoying it, but that is all she says about the question. So answering the question should be the main part of your long turn. So make sure that you reserve time for that and that you use that time. Because also Maria doesn't use the whole 60-second time period. As we see, after some time she stops and the interlocutor has to stop the turn eventually. So always make sure that you use the full 60 seconds that you have available to you to compare the photos and to answer the question. So there is room for improvement, and I'm sure that in the future Maria is going to practice this more and work on that. So let's see as well what Florine says about her extra question about Maria's pictures.
Florine, which garden would you prefer to spend time in?
I think I would prefer the garden in the first picture because I think it's her own garden. And I like working in the garden with my mom and dad. So I think I would enjoy spending time in my own garden most. Yeah.
Thank you. Can I?
Okay, so again, Florine gives a good answer. She answers the question and she explains why she would prefer the first garden, just like in part 1. A nice 15 to 20-second answer, and that's all you have to do. So this is the end of part 2, and in a couple of minutes I'll see you guys back for part 3. Part 3 is where finally you and your partner or partners have to work together. The interlocutor gives you a scenario plus some written prompts and a question for you to discuss. If you work in a pair, you have about 2 minutes to complete this task, while groups of 3 get an extra minute, and with that 3 minutes. Once you finish that discussion phase, you get about another minute to make a decision based on the interlocutor's instructions. In this task, the focus is definitely on interacting well with your partner. That includes things like agreeing and disagreeing, giving your opinion, discussing topics, negotiating, as well as trying to reach a decision. As with all the other parts in the speaking exam, there's tons of useful language that you could use in speaking part 3. And this video here would probably not be enough to cover all of this, or we could talk for a whole day. So that's why I wrote an article specifically talking about part 3 of the speaking exam. I've put a link to this article in the description box, so if you want to find out more about good language to use in this part, jump over and then come back and watch the rest. But with all that being said, again, let's go back to Victoria and Edward and let's have a look at a real example of speaking part 3. And here we are once again, this time for the third part of Florine and Maria's speaking exam, the first part where they have to interact. We are going to watch the whole part and I will give you my thoughts afterwards, to give them the opportunity and to give you the opportunity to watch the whole part. So let's have a look.
Now, I'd like you to talk about something together for about 2 minutes. I'd like you to imagine that a town wants more tourists to visit. Here are some ideas they're thinking about and a question for you to discuss. First, you have some time to look at the task.
Okay, so the candidates, they always get some time, around 15 seconds, to look at the task, the question and the different ideas before they have to start the discussion.
Okay.
Now, talk to each other about why these ideas would attract more tourists to the town.
Well, I think all the ideas on the booklet are quite good actually. I think holiday flats will attract more tourists because there is just more space for the tourists to live in while they're on holiday. And what do you think about that?
Well, I agree with you, but maybe providing parks is much better.
Why do you think that actually?
Because I think to spend time in parks are good with the family.
Yeah, I think you can have a lot of fun in parks though. Just having a nice picnic with your friends or stuff. Yeah, that would be nice. But more shops, yeah, I think it would be nice because I think a lot of people, mostly women, like shopping, and I think having a lot of shops in your town would be nice for the shopaholics.
Yes, or I don't know, maybe the tourists like to spend more time in parks than go shopping, no?
Maybe if you are kind of a nature person, if you like nature a lot, then parks are probably much better than a lot of shops.
Yes.
Putting up security cameras, yeah, I think that's a really good idea because then the town is safe and tourists will feel safe.
Yes, with the cameras are good idea because the people are more safe than without cameras
Yeah,
of the people that want to steal.
yeah. No, I don't think building a large nightclub is really a good idea to attract tourists. I don't know.
It depends the age of the tourist, no?
Yeah, that definitely, but I don't think
No.
it will attract a lot of tourists because of one club. I think
Yes.
it's a combination of several things that attract tourists.
Thank you.
Okay, so I will stop it at this point. So this is the end of the first phase of part 3. And you can see that Maria and Florine work together quite well. Yeah, they try to involve each other. They ask questions like, what do you think about that? Or why do you think that? They also show agreement when they say, I agree with you. Yes, so that is really good. And that is definitely something you should do with your partner in the exam. I also think they could use maybe a little bit more variety of expressions. Yeah, if you go to my website and look at the useful language there in the article about part 3, the link, of course, is in the description box below to this video. You will see some useful language that can help you involve your partner a little bit more and use a more varied arsenal of expressions. I also think one thing that is important to point out here is that Florine and Maria start comparing the options to each other a little bit, which is not really what you should be doing in the first phase of part 3. Instead, you should simply answer the question for these different ideas, but you don't have to compare them. The comparison comes in the second phase, as we will see in a second. So keep the ideas separate in the first phase and don't compare them. Just answer the question for each point and see what your partner thinks about each point. But overall, I think they did this phase quite well. But we have a second one to look at as well, so let's do that too.
Now you have about a minute to decide which idea would be best for the town.
Okay. So what do you think is the best idea for the town to do?
I think building holiday flats, maybe.
Yes. Why do you think that?
Because all the tourists like to have flats to stay.
Yeah, but maybe the parks are just are a better idea to provide because they're really nice to just have a walk in and enjoy the nature with your friends and family.
Yes. So if you like providing parks, I think it's a good idea.
Yeah, I do think that's a good idea. Yeah, but also the holiday flats I think is a good idea because you have to have space for the tourists to live in. So if there's no space, there probably won't be a lot of tourists.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Thank you. Can I have the booklet, please? Thank you.
All right, and so that's the second phase of part 3. I would say that the two candidates do a much better job here than in the first phase. I think their conversation feels more natural, and part of that is that they actually disagree with each other at the beginning. I think that is a really good strategy to use. So one candidate can suggest one of the ideas, and the second candidate can then politely disagree. So there is a little bit of a need for discussion and need for negotiation. And I think both of them do this really well. There's a good flow to their conversation, and I think they do better than in the first phase of part 3. So we only have one part left, part 4, and I will see you for that again in a few minutes. So see you later. In the last part of the test, part 4, you need to discuss different questions with your partner or partners. These ones are always based on the topic in part 3, but they are not written down like the prompts that the interlocutor gives you in part 3. Instead, the interlocutor simply asks those questions verbally and you have to respond to them appropriately. This part takes around 4 minutes for pairs and 6 minutes for groups of 3, depending on how much time is left, and the examiner or interlocutor just keeps asking you questions until the time is up. Similarly to part 3, in part 4, the language focus is on giving your opinion, agreeing and disagreeing, and having a discussion with your partner. The useful language overlaps a lot with part 3. So again, have a look at my article that I wrote about speaking part 3 if you want to find out a little bit more about useful language. Unlike part 3, part 4 has no time limit on the specific questions. So you need to be a little bit careful to limit yourself in order not to speak too much, because you always want to give your partner the opportunity to talk as well. So here I would go with 20 to 30 seconds per answer. If you go a little bit over that, that's no problem, but you shouldn't talk for 2 minutes without a break. And yeah, so make sure that you limit yourself so you don't dominate the discussion too much. Also, always make sure that you listen very carefully to your partner and try to refer to what they say when you give your own opinion. Say if you agree or disagree with what your partner said, but also say why. Which part of their answer do you agree or disagree with? And then add your own ideas. So simply be smart and do the right thing. But of course, we have one more example to watch. So for the last time, let's jump back to my office and let's see what Victoria and Edward do. Okay, and just like that, we are already at the last part of Maria and Florine's speaking exam. Only part 4 is left. You've just heard my explanation from before. So the questions the examiner asks them are all related to part 3. In their example, it's all about tourism and traveling. And so yeah, let's see how they do. And yeah, let's have a look.
Florine, do you think you have to spend a lot of money to have a good holiday?
I don't think you have to spend a lot of money because I think you can also you can also have a good holiday when you're with just your friends or people you like to spend time with. And I don't think that should be in a nice fancy hotel or something where you have to spend a lot of money. Just you have to be with people you like and enjoy being with.
What do you think, Maria?
Well, it depends which place you want to go, because maybe if you want to go to an island, I think you are going to spend a lot of money than if you go to a campsite with friends.
Okay, first question. I think both candidates do quite well. One thing Florine does, which I really like, is that she corrects herself. Yeah, she falls over her words a little bit. She stops and she tries to repeat the sentence, which is something that you should do as well. So instead of just pretending that it didn't happen, just acknowledge your mistake, yeah, and correct yourself. Yeah, that is really a good thing. That's something the examiners want to see. Apart from that, I think both candidates do a very good job here, giving their answers, justifying their answers, and even as we see, they have different opinions here. Both justify their opinions quite well with reasons. So I believe they get a good start here in part 4. The only thing that I would recommend doing is that you always refer to what your partner says. So Maria here just gives her own opinion without acknowledging Florine's point of view. So I would always say, address something your partner said first and then add your own opinion to that. But we'll see if they do this in the following questions.
Maria, some people say we travel too much these days and shouldn't go on so many holidays. What do you think?
Yes, I think nowadays, a lot of people travel more than few years ago, because I think the world is increasing, so the people likes to travel.
Do you agree, Florine?
I think we travel a lot these days, but I think that's also because everybody has got a lot more money to spend. So I think they spend it on traveling because they want to see a lot of the world. So.
Okay, so once again, pretty good turn, I guess, here. Perhaps the two candidates could have expanded a little bit more on their answers, but once again, they give their opinion, they justify their answers, so there's nothing wrong with that. Again, Florine could have referred a little bit more to what Maria says. Yes, so again, Maria gives her opinion, and then Florine just gives her opinion without really addressing what Maria said first. So again, that's something Florine could improve as well.
Florine, do you think people have enough time for holidays these days?
No, I don't think so. I think if you're in school, like I am, you've got a lot of long breaks, especially the summer break is a long break. But I think when you're done with school and you have to start your professional life, then there isn't a lot of time for holidays. So, yeah.
And you, Maria?
Yes, I agree with Florine, but some people works not a lot, so maybe can take more holidays than other people.
Okay, so here for the first time, yeah, Maria actually says that she somewhat agrees with Florine, and then she contrasts this a little bit, which is already better. But again, I think both candidates could expand a little bit more on their answers. Yeah, their answers, they become a little bit too short for my liking. And here in part 4, it's your last opportunity to really show that you can produce these extended stretches of language. And perhaps this is a little bit of a missed opportunity here. But let's see, there's still a couple of minutes left, and they still have a few more questions.
Why do you think people like to go away on holiday?
Well, I think because they would like to see a lot of different parts of the world, so they can just like develop their knowledge of it.
Yes, and it's a good idea to spend time doing this traveling around the world.
Yeah, I think it's a good idea as well.
Okay, so here for the first time, the interlocutor doesn't direct the question just like towards one candidate and then the other, but she invites them to have a conversation. And once again, I think Florina and Maria could make more of this opportunity. Because normally, if you have a conversation with somebody about a topic, you don't just say one sentence and then the other person says a sentence, but instead it's more of a back and forth. Yeah. So if the examiner or the interlocutor invites you to have this discussion, yeah, feel free to talk about the topic for a minute or even two. There are not really any time constraints, and the worst thing that could happen is that the interlocutor stops you and ends the test. But yeah, take this opportunity to have longer conversations with the other candidate.
What do you think is the biggest advantage of living in a place where there are a lot of tourists?
I actually don't really think that there are a lot of advantages. Do you think so?
No, because maybe the city or the town is going to be so crowded, so you can do a lot of activities because all the places are full.
Yeah, I think it's mostly the only big advantage is that you get a lot of money from the tourists, so it's good for the local economy.
The economy.
Yeah, I don't think for the city itself it's a big advantage to have a lot of foreign people. So, yeah.
Okay, so here we have the first time where they actually get into a little bit of a conversation. You know, there's a little bit of a back and forth. Both of them agree, but they still give reasons for their opinions. Yeah, they actually help each other here a little bit with their opinions and with the things they say. So I think this was, up until now, the best answer that they give together. And there is probably time for one more question here.
And what can people do to have a good holiday in Holland?
I think they should go to Amsterdam because it's the main city of the Netherlands, and I think they can spend a lot of time in the nature we have got, mostly in the north of the Netherlands. It's very pretty, and I think most cities are pretty nice to visit because everyone is really nice. And they're willing to help you if you need something.
And in Argentina?
Well, in Argentina, if you like to do some nature activities, you can go to the Iguazu Falls. And then in the south, you can do sports in the snow, such as skiing, snowboard, or walking with friends.
Thank you. That is the end of the test.
Okay. Thank you very much.
Okay, and just like that, Maria and Florine have finished their speaking exam. So I think for the last question as well, they do a good job here, giving good answers, and I hope that I was able to give you a better idea of how the different parts of the test work and what the candidates did well and also things they could improve, so you can use that for your own speaking. So one last time we'll go back to the living room and so I say bye here from my office and let's go back to the living room. If you want to rewatch the whole test that we've just watched together, you can follow the link in the description box below. You will also find a link to Victoria and Edward's marks, as well as some of the examiner's comments as to why they received the marks they received. So again, follow the links in the description if you want to find out more about that. Thank you for watching the video until the end. I hope that it helps you get a little bit more comfortable with the speaking exam in Cambridge B2 First. Now you know how the different parts work, what kind of language you should use, and what things you should and shouldn't do in each of the sections of this part. of the exam. Now, of course, it's time for you to practice. You can try to find a partner online, or you can take classes to improve your speaking and to practice. However, I can also be your teacher. I offer online classes as well as writing feedback, exam practice, and also some general classes. If you're interested, follow the links in the description box below, and I see you in the next video.